Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Mahua Moitra has been expelled today from Parliament as an MP. This was always a matter of when and not if, ever since the charges against her came to light. She had accepted to sharing her parliamentary login and password with friend Hiranandani, whose offices in multiple locations were proven to have logged in, some even on the same day. While Mahua claimed they only typed in the questions she gave them, the damage was already done. Add to that the charges by erstwhile confidants that she took gifts and money in return for the credentials. There was hardly any way she could have been excused even by the Parliamentary Ethics Panel. Regardless, her expulsion has been severely protested by the opposition parties who claim she has been victimized due to political battle lines. Does that argument carry weight, or did Mahua deserve the expulsion? We'll take that question to our guest joining us in just a bit. First up, there was a heated debate in the Parliament today before Mahua Moitra was finally expelled by a House vote. Let me take you through some of the highlights of the showdown that ensued once the Parliamentary Ethics Panel report was tabled. So a short discussion on the Ethics Panel report began around 2 p.m. today, and responding to the opposition MPs, the Lok Sabha Speaker said that there can be no compromise on conduct of House. Rules of the House are above all. Congress MP Manish Tiwari urged the Speaker to allow time for the opposition members to go through the report and said that heavens wouldn't fall if they were given a couple of days or so. Now, opposition MPs, including Congress MP Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, sought the opportunity for Mahua Moitra to be able to speak today and to put across her side. But BJP MP Prahlad Joshi cited earlier precedent in 2005 when the Speaker Somnath Chatterjee did not allow MPs who were charged with a similar offence to put their side of defence on the floor of the House on the day when the report was tabled and the vote was to be done. Now, BJP MP Hina Gavit continued to lead the party's charge and defending the ethics panel's report. She cited that the report clearly says how on one particular day, Mahua Moitra's Lok Sabha account was logged in from 4 different places all around the world. Meanwhile, TMC MP Kalyan Banerjee claimed that it was not a fair trial against Mahua Moitra by the Ethics Committee, as the said businessman in question, Darshan Hiranandani, was never even summoned for cross-examination. The discussion was allowed for about 30 minutes, and finally at about 3:10 p.m. the House adopted the motion for Mahua Moitra's expulsion and the MP was expelled from Lok Sabha. 5 minutes later, the opposition staged a walkout as Mahua Moitra was expelled. Now, CNN News 18 accessed that 500-page ethics panel report earlier in the day, which was adopted by the House and sealed Mahua's fate. Let's take a look at the salient features of this report. Many recommendations have already come out in the public domain earlier as well. So this is what the ethics panel report cited. It said that Mahua Moitra took cash and gifts from businessman Darshan Hiranandani to ask questions in the House. The ethics panel report highlighted that Moitra's action of sharing her Lok Sabha login credentials with an unauthorized person was a contempt of House. Ethics panel in its report said Mahua Moitra's conduct was objectionable, unethical, heinous and criminal in nature. They've also sought an intense legal and institutional inquiry by the Government of India in a time-bound manner. Remember, ethics panel has also recommended a probe by a suitable agency, and CBI possibly is already looking into it, into the money trail between expelled TMC MP Mahua Moitra and businessman Darshan Hiranandani, so that the quid pro quo, which Mahua Moitra continues to claim hasn't been established in this case, can be established. Now, there are no legal options in front of Mahua since this decision of Parliament cannot be challenged. What remains are some questions. First of all, will Mahua Moitra face a criminal inquiry over the allegations or not? Will quid pro quo be established by a further probe, as has been asked for by the parliamentary probe? Is there a breach of conduct? If there is one, then why label it discriminatory is also a question. Can the opposition continue to cry foul? And if there is proof of cash being exchanged, and the opposition's charge that there is frankly no case against Mahua Moitra, is that a fair case to be made? And will backing Mahua help or backfire for the India bloc, as they have shown today in 2024? Will it be something that can go against them? That and other big questions coming up in our debate. First up, the biggest one that we're asking today is simply this: does the vendetta charge stand?
From a script, this is an ethics committee.
The
The Ethics Committee, without getting to the root of this, has decided to hang you.
जैसे कि महुआ मोइत्रा को नाम लिए गए, जिक्र किए गए, उनके खिलाफ शिकायतें हैं, तो उनको तो कम से कम बोलने का मौका देना चाहिए नहीं? आप खुद बताइए सर।
2005 में 10 लोगों को निष्कासित किया गया था, उसी दिन रिपोर्ट दिया गया था और उस टाइम भी 10 लोगों को इधर अपने बात रखने का मौका नहीं दिया गया था। ये रिकॉर्ड पे है।
Fair trial only would be there when an affected person is being heard. If an affected person is not heard, there cannot be any fair trial.
Hello, Moto.
Let's go across first up to Karti Chidambaram, Congress MP joining us. He was seen standing in solidarity with Mahua Moitra today as Mahua Moitra made the exit from the parliament and of course gave out a statement as well. Karti, I understand standing in solidarity with a colleague. I understand that from, let's say, TMC MPs and MPs from across opposition bloc as well. But is it not a bit too much to suggest that there is vendetta against Mahua Moitra in this case?
Have you read the report?
Yes, portions of it, yes.
No, which portions have you not read?
Tell me what is it that you want to highlight?
Have you read page 52, which is the recommendations of the committee?
I pointed out some of the recommendations of the committee earlier in the show. Go ahead, Karti, we have limited time.
I mean, if you're not read, I can. No, you might have limited time, but but I'm not going to go by your clock. Look at page 52 in paragraph 72.1 subsection 2. In view of the highly objectionable, unethical, heinous and criminal conduct of Srimati Mahua Moitra. So the committee comes to a conclusion that her conduct is criminal. But in the very next line, it says, the committee recommends for an intense legal institutional inquiry by the government of India in a time-bound manner. So they will find somebody's conduct criminal and then ask for an inquiry. And if you're finding somebody criminal, you must follow natural justice, you must follow procedures of evidence. But in a hearing, you only hear her and not allow her to cross-examine the people who have made allegations against her. So how is that fair process? So you don't follow fair process, you come to a conclusion, and then after coming to a conclusion, you are asking for an inquiry. So how is this even a report which is correct, which is fair, which can be relied upon? And how can this report be adopted by the recommendations of this report be adopted by a house? So this is the entire process reeks of reverse engineering a vendetta. You just want to disqualify somebody, expel somebody who's been a trenchant critic of the government. That's all. I mean,
but Karti, the fundamental
you follow cricket. What is the fundamental point? What is the fundamental point?
Yeah, the fundamental aspects of this case is that she shared her login and password, which she accepted. Her defense in that case was only that other MPs also do it. I'm not finished. One second.
Hear me out.
I'll give you time. Just hear me out my question, then I'll hear you out. The fundamental aspect is this, that she shared her login and password. Her defense in this regard has been twofold. One, that there are quote-unquote no rules as to what you should do with your password and login, and that other MPs also share their password and login, although there is no other example cited of anybody sharing it with a third party who could also be a conflict, that can also be called to be a conflict of interest. They may share it with their secretariat, with their office, with their secretaries, etc. But this was an absolutely unattached, unconnected individual and entity with whom the login and password was shared. It has been, of course, proven in this report via data that the login was accessed through 4 different locations at different times, sometimes even during the day. Now, her defense was this was only to get some, typing services done. Does that defense stand?
See, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not here to defend her on those aspects. All I'm saying is the committee comes to a conclusion about unethical, heinous, criminal. Look at the language they come out, the conclusions they come up to. If they come up to these conclusions, why are they asking for an inquiry? If they came to these conclusions, why did they not allow cross-examination? That's all. You should have allowed cross-examination.
Cross-examination of whom exactly? This is a parliamentary ethics panel.
The people who...
This is not a court of law.
Precisely, the parliamentary ethics panel is relying on... But you are coming to legal conclusions. Then if you are not a court of law, you can't come to a conclusion. Only a court of law can come to a
But this isn't a court of... This isn't a legal conclusion that is binding in any court of law. Karti, you are a parliamentarian. I shouldn't have to say this to you. But the ethics committee of the parliament may not be a court of law, but they have their own rules.
Please don't be a spokesperson.
I knew you were going to say that. But I knew you were going to say that. But attacking me is not going to be a defense for Mahua Moitra. My question is simply this.
That's very good.
No, my question is simply,
that's very, very
Karti, my question is simply this: the Parliamentary Ethics Committee's, jurisdiction and its handling of a matter, and even its verdict in a matter, they are not to be confounded with what a court of law does. You know this better than anybody else.
But then how do you come to a conclusion that it's criminal behavior? You can't come to a conclusion it's criminal behavior without giving a without following due process. You can't. And you can't come to all those conclusions without process. You can't come to those conclusions without due process and due procedure.
But what is the due process that was not followed?
Unless you follow cross-examination of the people making the allegations.
Is that done for a ethics committee of the parliament?
Of course, you should have, right of defense should be allowed to cross-examination. You only rely on an affidavit, unless the affidavit is not even worth the paper it's written on, if it's not stated in front of the committee and allowed to be cross-examined. Without cross-examination, how do you rely on it?
Okay, so can I come back to the question I asked you?
Why couldn't cross...
Yeah, can I come back to the question I asked you? The fundamental question that I asked you was this. As far as the ethics panel is concerned, they were going to decide on the ethical aspects of this complaint. You may have a problem with some of the words they've used in this report. I take your point. And they've recommended a probe by
I have serious problems with the words they use.
Absolutely. I take your point. And they have recommended a probe which will be done by a CBI, agency, for example.
No, listen to me. You can't brush away these words. These are not words which are said lightly. Unethical, heinous, criminal conduct. I mean, you're coming to a conclusion.
Okay,
These
I take your point.
These are not light words to be taken. How do you come to that conclusion?
Okay, I take your point. I want to just quickly
taken my point.
I just want to quickly move forward to the basic question that I asked you, and that is the basic question as far as this case is concerned, and everything else is relative or just comes out of that. Sharing of your parliamentary login with a businessman entity who has nothing to do with parliamentary procedures in India, was that right or wrong? Why is it so difficult for the opposition to also say this was wrong?
It is possibly wrong. But expulsion is a disproportionate. At least hear me out. But it's a disproportionate and unreasonable punishment. Expulsion is an unreasonable and disproportionate punishment for sharing your login passwords. Your censure could have been done, or a suspension for the week could have been done. Warning could have been done. I mean, why do you expel? Why do you extinguish their membership? Why do you deny the population of our constituency from having a member of parliament?
Okay, that's not a question I can answer.
Deprive the people of our constituency.
No, that's not a question I can answer, but that's a value judgment on your side.
You seem to be very enthusiastic in batting for them, though.
No, I'm sorry, Karthi, let's not go down that road. You're better than this. Putting insinuation on my part is not going to help your defense. It's not going to help Mahua Moitra's defense.
But I'm not insinuating anything, but the point is your line of questioning is completely prejudicial.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. We've got a case of a parliamentarian sharing their login and password with a businessman entity who had no business having these login and password. You may think it's possibly wrong. Other people are also entitled to their view on this.
But I've proven to you that they did not follow due procedure. But
no, I'm not sure if that is proven, but their point is taken. My last question to you, Karthi, is this. This is while the opposition is pitching this as one female MP especially being expelled because she was a very vocal critic, one of the most vocal, if I can say so, of the current government and dispensation. That is a qualitative judgment on the scenario that has nothing to do with the facts. And will that defense be what the opposition would like to take in front of the public in 2024?
You take it from me, in 2024, for the 18th Lok Sabha, Mahua Moitra will come back with a bigger majority from her constituency. You take it from me on that.
That doesn't answer my question.
That will be the befitting reply. Of course it has answers, and this is definitely, we will go to the people to say how they are disenfranchising their elected members, especially all those who raise questions against the government, and they want to do institutional collapse. And this will
Okay,
be
so
one of the
as I
arguments which
take
we'll be
it, this
making in
is
front
going
of
to
the
be
people.
very much one of the things that binds the opposition parties, the India bloc together, the defense of Mahua Moitra, or the, or a campaign against her expulsion?
That's not going to be the centrality of our election,
Sure,
of
sure,
the
sure.
India alliance. But the fact that an MP has been expelled because she's been a very vocal critic of the government is a point which we will take to the people. And I am absolutely certain that her constituency is going to return her back to Parliament with a bigger majority.
Okay. Congress MP Karthi Chidambaram, thanks a lot for speaking to CNN News.
But I would seriously recommend reading page 52 all over again.
Karthi, let me assure you, before you joined us, I don't know if you could hear me, I read out exactly those findings and recommendations of the panel. So you can be rest assured we did
But
our
it's
homework and we pointed it out.
If you look at point 1 subsection 2, line 1 contradicts line 2. They are in conflict with each other.
Okay. All right. Karthi Chidambaram, thanks a lot for making out those points and for joining us. Let's also open this up to our other guests joining us. Let's go across to Charu Pragya, spokesperson of the BJP. With us, Vivek Silas is spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. Riju Jatta is from the TMC. Sanjay Rana is political analyst also with us. Riju, I'll come to you first. You've heard, I think you possibly heard most of what Karthi Chidambaram had to say. I'm guessing most of your defense or allegations against the present government or the way this ethics panel worked and the expulsion was carried out would be the same. But first 2 minutes to you.
See, if you go back in history, if you go back to our religion, then to defend the honor of one woman, Lanka Dahan ho gaya tha. And to defend the honor of one woman, even Mahabharata was happening. So similarly, from insulting Mamata Banerjee to the expulsion of Mahua Moitra, BJP has once again proven that they are anti-women. They cannot tolerate women in authority, they cannot tolerate women in power, they cannot tolerate women exposing them on the floor of the parliament. To save their political masters, a voice of defense has to be shut. It is very sad to see that the temple of democracy today has been held hostage by the Duryodhans of the BJP. It was unethical, it goes against the course of natural justice. She was not allowed to defend herself.
That's not true. She was given an opportunity, she walked out of that meeting.
The entire parliamentary MPs, the opposition MPs said only one thing: let her speak. She was not allowed to speak.
No, today is a different matter. Riju, you're changing goalposts. Today is a different matter, and I think the parliamentarians, once again, the parliamentarians gave a precedent as well by someone who's against whom you're adopting a report is not given an opportunity. Now, you could argue whether that is a right precedent or wrong precedent. I'm not getting into that. We can change it if need be in future. But this is how it stands. When it comes to the ethics panel committee's own probing, she was called in front of it. She was given an opportunity. She walked out.
I will give you two answers only three answers actually, 3 points. First, the entire ethics committee report is based on the affidavit of one Mr. Darshan Kananda.
That's not true.
Why was he? And Mr. Dehat Rai. Right?
That's not true.
What is your basis?
The logins are proven. It's proven the logins were shared.
So
that
what?
logins were.
So
So
what?
what?
I am asking you, so what? Yes.
That is the problem here.
Give
Riju,
me
you're
an
not
answer.
understanding the gravity of the situation.
You are not understanding the gravity. Please, let me finish and then you can ask me all the questions. If I shoot somebody, I will be booked under ICC 302 because there is a law. Show me one section, one article from the parliamentary SOP that says parliamentarians cannot share their ideal partner. There is no rule for it. Point number one. So, and second, how does it become a matter of national security when all questions asked by the MP on the floor of the parliament can be accessed by a 20 rupees RTI? There is no evidence of any cash or gift handover, not one shred of evidence. They have proved that she has taken money or gift. Third point, it is all based on Darshan Hiranandani's affidavit. Why was Darshan Hiranandani not asked to come and say that yes, this affidavit was done by me? So all in all, the people of this country have seen what BJP has done, and in due course of time, I am telling you, in 6 months' time, Trinamool Congress stands with Mahua Moitra. She will get elected with a bigger margin. She will go back to the same parliament and she will take BJP to the cleaners because we stand with Mahua.
Okay. So let me take your points that you made. I'll go across to Vivek if he also agrees with what the TMC stand or the opposition stand has been, that it is no big deal if Mahua Moitra shared her password on login with a businessman entity whose office is logged in from 4 different locations, sometimes even on the same day, and were quote unquote, putting in the questions on her behalf, because that's a flimsy ground.
Yes, first of all, good evening to all of you and the viewers. I think it's just a conspiracy by the Bharatiya Janata Party against the opposition. It's nothing more than that. I think it is a dictatorial decision what has been taken today. She was not even allowed to speak inside the parliament. If we see the Indian law, even the criminals are given chance to put their verdicts. Did Mr. Hiranandani say that he has given the money? No, he did not. At 12 o'clock, the report came, and by 3 o'clock, she was expelled from the parliament. Article 14 says the right of self-defense. That is what the article in the law of India says. And she had the right of cross-examination if Mr. Hiranandani has given her money. Of course, let us assume if he has given her money, why he is not arrested? Where is he? Sitting merely in Dubai. In 2005, the Bharatiya Janata Party says that people were expelled from the parliament. Yes, they were expelled. But they were caught on live camera. They were caught on live camera. And I would like to ask the BJP spokesperson, Charu Pragya ji, a BJP MLA was caught with 8 crore cash in Karnataka. What has happened to him? Narendra Tomar's son, we saw the video, it was about 10,000 crore. Has any inquiry been set on that?
Okay, I'll not get into that. Let's stick to the subject we're discussing today. I think it's important to understand also, and I know this is being obfuscated for various reasons today, but what you understand how things happen in a court of law is not how it happens in parliament. In fact, this decision is not even challengeable in any court of law. In fact, MPs, parliamentarians, even MLAs, what they say on the floor of the house cannot attract a criminal case. This is the privileges that the house enjoys. And it goes on various lines.
This will not stand in any court. This will not stand in any court.
That will come to that when it goes to a court. You're not understanding the point I am making. This is an ethics committee of the parliament taking a decision. It has its own rules that it goes by. It has its own procedures it has to see to. Actually, the ethics panel has the broad responsibility and also the rights to take a decision if they feel any parliamentarian has brought the honor of the house down. It's as simple as that. Sharing your login and password is the only thing that matters here, and whether there is a defense for that or not. But I do take the point about the quid pro and quo. Charu Pragya, the report says there is criminal conduct involved, but on criminal aspects an investigation has to be done. So how did the Parliamentary Ethics Panel come to the conclusion that there is criminality involved when they cannot prove it? They should have left it to the agencies.
Shivani, good evening. They have left it to the agencies. They are seeking an intense inquiry and the agencies will take it forward. As you rightly said, now this was a decision taken by the Ethics Committee, and the members in the Ethics Committee are actually more from the opposition than from the Bharatiya Janata Party. They could have chosen to stay and vote in favor of Mahua Moitra. They preferred to stage a walkout than stay there and vote for Mahua. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is those who are screaming today and saying this is not a judicial body, this is not a judicial process, absolutely you're right. But why don't you make it a judicial process? Go challenge this in the Supreme Court of India, like was done by the 11 MPs who were expelled from the parliament in 2005. They took it to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court upheld the expulsion. Mahua Moitra can try doing the same, make it a judicial process. The parliamentary process has decided and concluded that Mahua Moitra does not deserve to be a parliamentarian after ensuring the first page of the email policy of the Government of India on the first page clearly says that it is absolutely prohibited to share your login ID and credentials and password with anybody else, let alone someone who's not even an Indian citizen. So,
you didn't answer my question.
Have breached. Yeah.
Charu, I think the fundamental question that people are asking is that how did you decide that there was quid pro quo, which would have been even more problematic than sharing your login and password, when clearly this ethics panel could not establish that? They've taken the affidavit by Hiranandani word for word, or have taken it at face value.
No, they are, first of all, let's remember that the ethics panel is deciding on the issue of the ethical behavior of Mahua Moitra, right? So it's important that you give importance to somebody sharing the login ID and password.
No, I said
Number
that
two,
myself.
Mahua
That is
Moitra-
not something
no,
that can
Mahua
be brushed
Moitra-
under the carpet.
Mahua
Sharing
Moitra
your login and
herself
password
admits-
with somebody
herself
who's
admits
not
to
your
accepting
staff,
gifts.
who's logging in
Shivani,
from multiple locations
Shivani.
is a problem. No, I accepted that. But please
And
come
Mahua
to the quid
Moitra
pro
herself
quo.
has admitted
Yes.
to accepting gifts and to sharing the login ID and password. She herself has brazenly accepted it. In fact, when I saw her behavior on camera today, the way she was laughing in a celebratory mood entering the parliament today, calling herself Ma Durga. I mean, look at the arrogance of it all. And Today for once, she mentioned Krishnanagar in her speech outside Parliament. Today, she remembers that she represents Krishnanagar. In all these years, not once I have heard her talk about her constituency. In all these years, not once I have heard her stand up in Parliament and ask for anything for the poor people of her constituency that she wants to use today to play the victim card.
Sanjay Rana, let me ask you, is Mahua Moitra the victim here of charges that seemed more sensational than they are, but the fundamental charge of quid pro quo was not established, or did she dig her own grave, and I use that word very carefully, by one, accepting she shared the login and password with the friend Hiranandani, and also in a public statement accepting that yes, as a friend, Hiranandani has given her a couple of gifts in the past. Did that seal her fate?
Shivani, good evening. Good evening from fellow panelists. We need to understand two things. One is the parliamentary procedure, another one is court procedure. So people are mixing both the procedures with each other, which is not correct. The Parliament has a different procedure and the guidelines under which every parliamentarian has to operate and work. And if you look at the complete report which committee has submitted, is approximately 53 pages, and out of which obviously all the evidences is given very categorically. Is the digital evidences, even though IP addresses are there, IP addresses where login happened, from where the question has been raised. Number two. Number three, when we talk about establishment taking gift or cash, if you're not taking a cash, you're taking a gift, is a kind of cash only. As per the challenges is concerned, it's a ethics committee of the parliament. They are not the court, and speaker is not the judge, and the member of parliament are not the advocate. So we need to understand how parliament is going to operate. And she got the privilege, any member of parliament, they got the privilege under section 106, and they can raise any question. They get the immunity. So you can ask the question. You are the member of parliament. You are not raising a concern or the questions related to the people of your constituency or related to the citizen of India. You're raising or working as a private limited company spokesperson and asking this question. So something is there. Number one. I just will finish. Number one. Number two, Shivani, if you look at the second case, obviously CBI will do the investigation on Hiranandani. As far as my friend was saying, Hiranandani, why investigations not happen to Hiranandani depend upon the ethics committee report, or ethics committee will decide whether they have to call or not. Obviously, CBI will come into the picture and do the investigation.
Well, I think in that case, I think it will be important that CBI carries this investigation forward, and Hiranandani is also questioned. If he is the quote-unquote bribe giver, he has to be questioned too.
No, there's a two things. One is a bribe, another one is giving your credentials. So if you're giving your credentials,
in this case, if there is quid pro quo, Sanjay, you will understand the point that I'm trying to make, which is similar to what you're saying. If Mahua Moitra has to be investigated for accepting quote-unquote bribes, quid pro quo for asking a question is what? Any privileges you get, any fancy gifts you get, or cash you get, it's basically a bribe, right? So the bribe taker and the bribe giver both have to be questioned and investigated and punished.
Yes, very much true. But please understand, Mahua Moitra is a member of parliament. Darshan Hiranandani is not a member of parliament.
Yeah, that's the distinction I made.
Yes. Parliament will take their own course, and CBI will do the investigation, and they will call, if required, to Darshan Hiranandani as well as the number of people, those who are involved. Right. As far as the proofs are concerned, all the proofs has been given very categorically, including a digital, including IP addresses on all. 53-page report and 500-page complete supporting documents were there. So you need to understand what we are talking about. So do not mix
the two processes. That's the point that I was making as well. It's all good to talk about, natural justice and all of that. When it comes to Parliamentary Ethics Committee, those principles don't really come in the same way as a court of law. We have to understand this committee is only concerned with what a parliamentarian's behavior has been. And I think, Riju Jatta, you will accept that once it was established that she shared her password and login, it was game over for Mahua Moitra. There is a form which you sign as a parliamentarian which says do not share these details. One. Secondly, even if it's an unprecedented case, because this is a fairly recent, electronic system that has come into practice, the ethics panel is within its right to decide if it was unethical to share these password and logins. And my fundamental question again is this: how can you as a political party say that it's okay to do so? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. When there are issues of national security or a compromise of confidential parliamentarian documents, that is a matter here.
I challenge CNN News 18 to show that form and read out the section, read out the article where it says it.
No, I've seen the form. I've seen the form and the first...
No, madam, no. No, every parliamentarian shares their password with more than 20-25 of their own staff.
Of their own staff?
There is no, again I'm saying,
operational word being of their own staff.
Please show me a rule which says that you cannot share your ID and password. Who's your staff? Today I can be your staff, Shivani. Tomorrow I cannot be your staff.
No, you cannot be. I can't prove you to be my staff if you've not my staff. I'm sorry, things don't work like that. No, Riju, what you're talking about is exactly the point here. It's like कि आप अपने घर में कुछ चला रहे हो, वैसे पार्लियामेंट नहीं चलता है. It doesn't work like that. I can't tomorrow wake up and say you are my staff. I can't.
आप एक चीज नहीं समझ रहे हो कि पार्लियामेंट गुजरात जिमखाना नहीं है.
अरे बाबा, that is the point we are making.
Somebody needs to understand this.
Riju, tell me one thing. Riju, tell me one thing. You yourself said you share your password and login with your staff, right? I take it. Yes, parliamentarians do so. There is a reason they do so. What is the defense of Mahua Moitra to share it with a businessman entity who's a third party unrelated to her, unrelated to her staff? And no, she cannot prove that she needed his staff. What about her staff?
Even if she has shared it with a businessman.
Even if she accepted it.
No, okay, she has shared it with Darshan Hiranandani. Please tell me in which manual, in which rule book it is applied.
I'll tell you.
That is an example.
I think
Charu, the point.
One second, Charu mentioned it. You don't want to accept it. That's a separate matter. I want to move on. Riju, can you as a national party, as someone who wants to have national ambitions, can you today say, oh, it does not matter, no, it does not bring confidential documents that are in the domain of parliamentarians alone who put in their questions or who put in, bills are put in for consideration of parliamentarians before, they're tabled in parliament, etc. If somebody has login, they can access all of that. How is this not a matter of concern?
Again, I will ask you, I don't know whether you have heard my opening remark or not. Every question that is placed on the floor of the parliament, every bill that is passed on the floor of the parliament can be accessed by any voting Indian citizen with a 20 rupees RTI. So please tell me how it is a matter
20 rupees RTI is going to take time, Riju. You don't understand. Come on. You are being facetious.
If this is a matter of...
No, you are being facetious with the argument. 20 rupees RTI is going to take, it will take at least a few days for you to get hold of those, and you can only ask for what has been tabled. I am talking about documents and bills that haven't even been tabled that parliamentarians can get access to. Why should that access be in Darshan Hiranandani's hands?
You have forgotten one very key aspect here, Shivani, and I'm sorry to tackle with you like this, that Mahua Moitra said in the ethics panel that yes, he filed the questions on my behalf, but the OTP came to my authorized number. So, I submitted the question. Yes, and it is. She has said this in a press conference.
Yes, she has. But what is the defense for her not using her own staff and using Darshan Hiranandani's staff who's logging in? One second. Who's logging in from 4 different locations? ऐसी क्या आपको secretarial help चाहिए थी? That your own staff cannot give you. What is the defense?
You know what? I cannot argue with somebody who have already made up their mind.
But this is black and white. Riju, I'm sorry to say, as far as sharing your login and password is concerned, it is absolutely black and white. It was unethical of any parliamentarian to do so.
It is not. It is not because there is no rule for it. It is not.
Okay.
This is where you are going wrong.
No, I am not going wrong here at all. You can ask any person on the street. They will also have a better sense of judgment
Every
in this case.
person on
Now,
the
you
street
could
is
say
not
that there was an
a
error of judgment here, but there was no...
every
You could
person
say
on
there
the
was an
street is
error
not
of
a
judgment
parliamentarian.
here, but no malified intent. But that's an argument then you have to make.
Then when there is no rule, how can you say it is wrong?
There
Can
is
I
a
come
form
in?
that parliamentarians have filled and signed. Yes, Charu, very
Show me
quickly,
that
I have
form.
limited...
Show
Okay,
me that form.
okay, Riju, limited time. Charu Pragya, 30 seconds, and our other guests.
I find it worrisome, first of all, that the opposition does not understand the enormity of what has happened. 47 logins were found into Mahua's parliamentary account from Dubai. There were several from Washington, D.C. It's a very serious problem. Now you were saying, where is this written? Sir, first of all, let me tell you, sharing these credentials even with staff is discouraged, but if it must be done, there has to be prior
Please quote me
approval.
the article
There is
and the
an
rule.
entire policy of Government of India.
Please
I
quote
would
me that
suggest that you
policy.
bother to read. Yes,
No,
it's
please
called
quote me
the
the
email policy
rule,
of Government of
article
India.
section.
It is passed in 2014. Do some studying before you come
No,
back
please,
here.
quote
Also,
me the
Shivani,
article
I want to
and
talk
development
about the
line.
larger intention behind
Quote
what is
me that.
happening here. Now, Mahua Moitra and all her so-called friends in the opposition are trying to build this one picture of being anti-Adani, right? And Rahul Gandhi tried to take this forward in the 5 state elections that happened. I don't know who you are, Mr. Datta, but you need to learn some basic manners. You and your other Mahua Moitra, you need to learn some basic manners. Did I speak over you?
Okay,
Shivani, I'm
Riju,
going
I
to
think you
request
had
you
your
to come in
opportunity.
now.
Let her finish now. I have limited time. Charu Pragya, please.
Thank
Finish.
you. So, you did take your narrative amongst the people of this country for the 5 state elections. 5 massive states went in for elections. Forget about TMC. You didn't matter in these elections, but your agenda was carried forward by Rahul Gandhi. The people of India have answered. What are you trying to pretend here? What are you trying to say? 62 questions were asked by one MP favoring one business house. 62.
Okay.
62
How does it
questions.
matter?
Understand the enormity of it. And
Okay,
if you
let's
are
leave.
going to-
There is no
One second.
equality.
Riju, please refrain from speaking over other guests. Riju, please refrain from speaking over other guests. You had your opportunity, let them also have their opportunity. One second, Riju, please. I don't want to speak over you. Let's leave
Why did
what the
Mamata
questions...
Didi not defend
One second,
Mahua Moitra?
Charu.
That's the question I've asked.
No, Mamata Banerjee has
many
since
times. Why did
defended
Mamata Didi
Mahua Moitra.
Why do you call
No,
Can I go? No, one second. Both of you, please. I don't want to speak over you. Vivek Silas, fundamental question is this. I don't want to get into what the questions were, whether they were asked with a particular intent, whether there was an agenda being run. Frankly, a parliamentarian is free to ask whatever questions they want. So I'm not getting into that territory. If she wanted to ask only questions related to Adani, so be it. She will be judged by her constituents. The question is this. The charge that Mahua Moitra has faced, will it hurt her, TMC and the opposition more, or will her expulsion, you believe, hurt the BJP more?
I think as far as the 2024 elections are concerned, Bharatiya Janata Party is not going to open its accounts, at least in West Bengal. That is for sure, after what they have done today. And today it is proven fact, it is proved that Mr. Adani is the real boss of India. Because she spoke against the government, she was a critic of the government, and she asked questions against Mr.
Why
Gautam
didn't
Adani.
your friends
It is
stay
a
and
proven
vote in
fact.
favor of Mahua in the ethics committee? In fact, I think you wanted to harm Mahua.
it is
You had
not-
her voted
it is not
out.
like
You had her voted out. The so-called India Alliance failed to walk out instead of voting in favor of Mahua.
One by one,
Are you
please.
worried?
You
You are
belong to the
actually
party
putting the
whose
thunder
national
in her feet.
president
Actually, you're
took
doing
bribe
that.
in
Why don't you answer that?
Vivek, can I just have Vivek? Vivek, I'll give you 20 seconds more uninterrupted, please.
It was Bangalu Lakshman, the former national president of the Bharatiya Janata Party, who was caught on camera taking a bribe of 1 lakh.
Yeah, so he was punished, no?
What punished? This and Madam Charu Pragya belongs to the same party.
So what does
Today,
that have to do with this?
The actual thing is the actual boss of the country is Mr. Gautam Adani. Whosoever speaks against him cannot stand.
There are so many parliamentarians who are speaking against him.
Party should have
Nothing is
waited.
happening to them. You know,
Party
sometimes
should
we
have
should
waited.
refrain from fantastical arguments like this. I gave you an opportunity to make more earthy arguments. You're
Party
taking
should have
fantastical
waited.
arguments,
The matter
which then
should
takes
have
it
been
to a
gone
point
to
which
the
it becomes
CBI,
unbelievable.
And the decision
Every day everybody is speaking against each other, but they claim that they are not allowed to speak.
Only then something should have been done against it.
Sanjay Rana,
The
final
matter
30
should have been
seconds.
gone to the court.
Ask you the political question. Is this at all a factor, one, for 2024? Is it going to help or hurt either side? You know, the opposition coming together, how do you see that? Is this a cause that would be wise for them to take up, given what has come to light against Mahua Moitra? And could it also go against the BJP that they were seen as expelling an articulate female MP?
Shivani, if you're asking about the political gain, I don't think it's going to make any sense for any party, whether it's a TMC or Bharatiya Janata Party or Congress. It's not going to impact at all. As far as Mahua Moitra is concerned, she may win election tomorrow in 2024. Doesn't matter. But it's not going to impact BJP. It's not going to impact TMC as a political is concerned. I was hearing one question that staff can use it. Staff cannot use it. Everyone has a staff. We are using our staff for providing information, and we are collecting all the information and facing it. It's a parliamentary job. But please understand, staff cannot write on your behalf as per the legal terms, which is important for all of us to understand. Number one. Number two, you're working, Shivani, Shivani working in CNBC, CNN and Network 18. You have all the privilege, all the access. Tomorrow, if you're leaving organization, you will not have access. Doesn't mean that you have to pass your access card or to your email ID details to somebody else, and on your behalf somebody is writing an email to your CEO. It's not making sense. We need to be very I
think at a very elementary level, it is wrong. Yeah. Anybody would accept that. Foolish, wrong, whichever way you want to look at it. As a parliamentarian, no less, to be sharing your password and login, that too to an individual who can misuse that login, who has interest that they could peddle through that login. And of course, there are documents that could fall into their hands. Now, that is an issue that doesn't go away, regardless of what questions you raised, against whom you raised. I've run out of time, though. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Let's see what happens in this, whether legally or criminally, as far as an investigation is concerned. Coming up after a very short break, on the other side, we'll get you more of what's happening as far as the race for Chief Minister's post in the 3 states where BJP won a mandate recently is concerned. When will the Chief Minister suspense end? We'll answer that question in just a bit.
Hello, Moto.